Welcome to another audit walkthrough video from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video, we're going to be going over Audit Area 2. This is Section A1. This is a remembering and understanding topic. Explain the purpose and significance of the overall engagement strategy for an engagement. And we're going to be doing that the SuperfastCPA way, which is diving straight into the questions to learn the material. Now, if you don't know much about our strategies, make sure you go to SuperfastCPA.com and sign up for our free 1-hour webinar training. Again, it's 1 hour. It's free, and in that webinar, we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam so you don't waste months or even years of your time struggling with these exams. So check out the webinar, and also just so you know, in today's video, we're only going to be going over 5 questions, whereas Superfast CPA Pro members get access to the full 10-question version of the video when I post it in the members forum. So if you like this and you like our other products, make sure you check out becoming a pro member of Superfast CPA because they get access to a lot of great stuff. They get access to the pro course where Nate explains in detail exactly what you're supposed to be doing. It's a much more in-depth version of the webinar essentially. And they also, again, get access to the full 10-question versions of these 5-question YouTube videos. So make sure you check out the webinar because that will be the easiest way to become a pro member. And with all that, let's go to the questions for this video. All right, here we are at question 1. Now, 2 things I want to point out at the beginning of this video. This topic isn't extremely difficult, so don't be too worried about it. And then a strategy I always like to point out is read the last part of the question first whenever that's an option, because a lot of times that will give you the context for the rest of the question. Again, it won't always help, but this is a great habit to be in on test day so that whenever there's a situation where this is helpful, you're already in that habit because, again, you're reading the last part of the question to know kind of an idea of what the question is dealing with, and then you read through the rest of the question and you already have an idea of what you're supposed to be looking for as you read through the rest of the question. So again, this is a good habit to be in for test day. Let's start with the question 1. This meeting is most closely related to, okay, so we know we're talking about a meeting. We know we're supposed to be thinking about what this meeting is closely related to. So let's go up to the top. During the planning phase of an audit engagement, the auditor meets with key members of the audit team to discuss the nature, scope, and timing of the engagement, as well as significant factors that could affect the audit approach. Again, this meeting is closely related to, let's go through the options. Option A, the preparation of the audit report. B, the execution of substantive testing procedures. C, the development of the overall audit strategy. Or D, the assessment of the client's internal controls. Okay, so if you have any idea what the correct answer is, that's great, but most likely you don't. This might be the first time you're going through this, or you're doing this video to get help with this. So we're going to just use this question and the explanation to start learning about the audit strategy. We don't really have to spend too much time up front. Let's just dive into the explanation to start learning about it. All right, here we are. The answer is C, the development of the overall audit strategy. And, that probably makes sense just based off the topic we're talking about in this video, but that's okay. Let's dive straight into the explanation. During the planning phase, auditors establish the overall audit strategy, which involves determining the nature, scope, and timing of the engagement. Discussions with the audit team help ensure that the engagement's direction aligns with identified risks, resources are allocated appropriately, and major factors influencing the audit are considered. Essentially, the audit strategy is kind of determining the nature, the scope, the things that you're going to be focusing on in the audit, kind of a broad focus on the audit. Now let's talk about the other options and why they're incorrect. Option A, the preparation of the audit report. The audit report is issued at the conclusion of the engagement and is not part of the planning phase. So that's not going to be part of planning. It's not going to be part of the audit strategy. B, the execution of substantive testing procedures. Substantive testing occurs later in the audit and is part of the detailed audit plan and part of the actual audit procedures, not the overall strategy. And then D, the assessment of the client's internal controls. While internal control assessment may influence the audit strategy, this is a separate process focused on understanding and testing controls. So again, assessing client controls, typically that's not something that is directly part of the audit strategy. You might have a broad idea for how you're going to do that, but you don't have any specific procedures for it. So again, one of the parts of the planning phase of the audit is developing the overall audit strategy. And that's what we're going to dive into the rest of the questions in this video. So let's go ahead and go to question 2 now. Okay, here we are at question 2. Which of the following is typically considered when creating the audit strategy? Okay, let's go to the beginning. An auditor is developing the overall audit strategy for the engagement. Okay, again, it's not always helpful, but it is a very good habit to be in. In this case, it wasn't extremely helpful. Usually when it's a really short sentence, you don't necessarily need to do it, but when you see a paragraph, read the last part of the question first. It will be really helpful. Again, they're developing the overall audit strategy. Which of the following is typically considered during the audit, creating the audit strategy? Let's go through the options. A, the preliminary assessment of materiality. B, the selection of specific audit procedures for testing transactions. C, the exact number of confirmations to be sent to third parties. Or D, the specific journal entries to be required for fraud indicators. So based on what we learned in the first question and kind of just reading through these options, you might have a guess. So if you want, Go ahead and pause the video and think through this if you need to. Otherwise, let's go ahead and look at the explanation to learn a little bit more about the audit strategy. Okay, here we are. The answer is A, the preliminary assessment of materiality. That's something that they're going to be doing during the creation of the audit strategy. Let's walk through this. The overall audit strategy establishes the scope, timing, and direction of the audit, guiding the audit plan. One key factor considered when developing the strategy is the preliminary assessment of materiality, as it impacts the nature and extent of audit procedures. One thing I will say, we haven't covered materiality yet. We haven't gotten to that point in the blueprints. That's going to happen as you're studying. You're going to see things that you don't quite know yet, but that's okay. You just need to learn one piece at a time. So right now we're learning about the audit strategy. We'll learn about materiality in a future video. Let's go through the other options and why they're incorrect. B, the selection of specific audit procedures for testing transactions. The audit strategy provides a broad framework, while detailed audit procedures are part of the audit plan. C, the exact number of confirmations to be sent to third parties. It's, kind of a similar idea here. The audit strategy considers whether confirmations will be used, but specific quantities are determined in, again, the audit plan. And then D, the specific journal entries to be reviewed for fraud indicators. Fraud risk assessment is important, but identifying individual journal entries occurs during detailed planning, not in the audit strategy. So you're kind of seeing a pattern here, right? The audit strategy is a broad overview of what they're going to be doing in the audit, basic timing, basic nature, scope of different things, kind of just getting the idea for what they're doing in the audit. In fact, a lot of the things that we've talked about in Audit 1 would kind of fall under the umbrella of the audit strategy. But when you're being very specific about the things you're doing, you're starting to plan the exact procedures you're doing. You're figuring out exactly how many confirmations you're going to be sending out. You are figuring out exactly what journal entries you need to look at for fraud risk. That's when you start getting into the audit plan, because the audit plan is much more detailed and you kind of do the audit plan based off of the audit strategy. And so I'm hoping you can kind of see that difference as we go through this video. Now let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 3. Which of the following is not a primary function of the overall audit strategy? So based on the previous 2 questions, I bet you could kind of figure this out, but let's walk through it first. Option A, establishing the scope, timing, and direction of the audit. B, serving as the foundation for developing the audit plan. C, identifying key risk areas that may require special audit attention. Or D, determining the special procedures to test each financial statement assertion. Okay, so which one of these is not a primary function of the overall audit strategy? Again, based on what we've learned in the previous 2 questions, I bet you already know the answer. If you don't, maybe pause the video, think through these different options, and think about which one is not a function of the audit strategy. And when you're ready to come back, we'll look at the answer together. All right, here we are. The answer is D, determining the specific procedures to test each financial statement assertion. So let's walk through the explanation. The overall audit strategy provides a broad framework for the engagement by defining the scope, timing, and overall direction of the audit. It helps auditors focus on key areas and ensures appropriate resource allocation. The audit plan, not the audit strategy, contains the detailed procedures needed to test specific financial statement assertions. So again, this is kind of the theme throughout the whole video. You're seeing the difference between the audit strategy and the audit plan. Audit strategy is broader, kind of just the general focus of the audit, whereas audit plan is where things start getting into more specifics. And let's talk about the primary functions of the audit strategy, just kind of going over it again. Establishing the scope, timing, and direction of the audit, that was option A, so that is one of the functions. Serving as the foundation for developing the audit plan, that's B. And identifying the key risk areas that may require special attention, that was C. And again, all of those are part of the primary functions of the audit strategy. So one more time, let's talk about why C is incorrect. The selection of specific audit procedures occurs in the audit plan, which is developed after the audit strategy has been established. The strategy sets the bigger picture, while the plan provides step-by-step details on how the audit will be conducted. So overall, again, audit strategy, broad overview of what you're going to be doing in the audit, whereas the plan is much more specific. Now let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 4. Which of the following is important to establish in the overall audit strategy? Let's go through the options. A, the nature and timing of communication with management and those charged with governance. B, the specific procedures for testing revenue transactions. C, the exact number of confirmations to be sent to third parties. D, the detailed sampling methodology for substantive testing. This is not an extremely difficult topic. I think already you should probably be knowing what the correct answer is, because there's not too much that you need to know when it comes to this specific topic in the blueprints. So if you don't already know the answer, pause the video and think through this. And when you're ready, come back. We'll look at the answer together. Okay, here we are at the answer. A, the nature and timing of communication with management and those charged with governance. Let's go through the explanation. A key part of the overall audit strategy is determining the nature and timing of communication with management and those charged with governance. This ensures that the auditor discusses significant risks, internal control deficiencies, audit progress, and key findings at appropriate times during the engagement. Here's why the other options are incorrect. B, the specific procedures for testing revenue transactions. Specific procedures are determined during the audit plan, not the broader audit strategy. C, the exact number of confirmations to be sent to third parties. The audit plan determines the number of confirmations based on the audit strategy's overall risk assessment. And then finally, D, the detailed sampling methodology for substantive testing. Sampling methodology is developed in, again, the audit plan, while the strategy provides a high-level framework. Same theme throughout the whole video. I hope you're seeing that. Now let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 5. The overall audit strategy serves as the foundation for which of the following? Let's go through the options. A, the auditor's final assessment of whether the financial statements are fairly presented. B, the detailed audit plan that specifies the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures. C, the management representation letter confirming the accuracy of financial statements. Or D, the issuance of the audit report with the auditor's opinion. So now that we're on question 5, I think based on the previous 4 questions, you should be able to figure out the right answer. So if you need to, pause the video, think through this, and when you're ready, come back. We'll look at the answer together. All right, here we are at the answer. B, the detailed audit plan that specifies the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures. So, that should be clear by now. The audit strategy leads into the audit plan. Let's walk through this. The overall audit strategy provides a high-level framework that guides the audit by determining the scope, timing, and direction of the engagement. This strategy serves as the basis for the audit plan, which translates the strategy into specific detailed audit procedures that will be performed to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence. And so let's talk about those key differences one more time. Audit strategy establishes the broad approach to the engagement, including risk considerations, timing of work, and resource allocation. Audit plan develops the detailed steps needed to implement the strategy, specifying the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures, not the audit engagement in itself, but specifically about the audit procedures for each financial statement area. So I hope that's clear by now. I think that was kind of like the main thing we wanted to cover in all these questions. Let's walk through these options and why they're incorrect. A, the auditor's final assessment of whether the financial statements are fairly presented. The final assessment happens after audit procedures are performed, not during audit planning. So that has nothing to do with the strategy or the plan. C, the management representation letter confirming the accuracy of financial statements. The representation letter is obtained at the end of the audit, and we talked about that in a previous video, not developed from the audit strategy. And then D, the issuance of the audit report with the auditor's opinion. The audit report is the final output of the audit and is based on the results of audit procedures, not based on the strategy itself. And with that, we've covered 5 questions talking about the importance of the audit strategy and kind of the difference between it and the audit plan. Now, before we do anything else, let's do one more part of the SuperfastCPA process called pillar topics. Now, the idea behind pillar topics is as you're going through the questions to learn the material, you will notice the things that keep popping up in the questions. You've seen 2, 3, 4 questions trying to teach you about the difference between the audit strategy and the audit plan, kind of the theme throughout this video, or whatever the case is. You'll notice these things popping up in the questions, and so you write these out in your own words as pillar topics so that you know what is most important for exam day. And as you're doing this each day, you're building your own personal repository of the most important things you've learned in your own words so that, again, you are ready for exam day. So with all that, let's look at the pillar topics for this video. All right, here we are at the pillar topics. Let's just dive straight in. First off, let's talk about the definition and purpose of the audit strategy, and we've learned all this throughout the whole video. The overall audit strategy establishes the scope, timing, and direction of the audit, providing a high-level framework that guides the engagement. It helps auditors focus on key areas, allocate resources effectively, and ensure the audit is conducted efficiently. Next, let's talk about the primary functions of the audit strategy. The audit strategy sets the foundation for the audit by identifying significant risk areas, planning the timing of work, determining key communication points with management, and ensuring appropriate staffing and resource allocation. Now let's talk about the strategy versus the plan. Again, this was something that was hit all throughout the video. The audit strategy is a broad, high-leveled approach that defines the overall direction of the audit, while the audit plan translates this into detailed specific procedures covering the nature, timing, and extent of audit testing. Now let's talk about the role of the audit strategy in communication. The audit strategy determines the timing and nature of communication with management and those charged with governance, ensuring that significant findings, internal control deficiencies, and audit progress updates are discussed at appropriate times. And then finally, the audit strategy as the basis for the audit plan. This is kind of similar to the third pillar topic, but in different wording. The audit strategy serves as the starting point for developing the audit plan, ensuring that the auditor's risk assessments, materiality considerations, and engagement timing are reflected in the detailed procedures that follow. So basically, overall, we learned about the audit strategy, and it's kind of one of the first things that you do in the planning process so that you can then make more detailed plans when you create the audit plan. And with all that, we've gone over the first 5 questions and the pillar topics for this video. Remember that SuperfastCPA Pro members are going to get access to the full 10-question version of this video, which I'm about to finish after I do this part. So if you like this and you like our other videos and our other products, check out becoming a SuperfastCPA Pro member so you can get access to the full 10-question videos. You can get access to the Pro course, and The easiest way to do all that is by first going to the SuperfastCPA CPA training webinar on SuperfastCPA.com. It's only 1 hour, it's free, and we will show you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam to save you months and months of studying and wasting your time. And again, after you watch that, that is a great gateway into learning more about becoming a pro member of SuperfastCPA. Now, with all that, I hope you liked the video. I hope it was helpful. If you did like the video, make sure to like it and leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video.